before we start, I just want to say how excited I am because I really never thought I'd ever see you. I've been following you for a few years, and the Pittsburgh Playhouse mentioned it to me and said, we have this great Emma Donovan coming to town, and she's this and she's that. I said, stop. I know her.
Yes. Wow, how lucky.
So thank you for spending some time with me. You're going to be
No
coming
worries.
in
Yeah.
March, at the end of March, and we're all really excited. Is this your first tour in the US?
It will be with the putbacks.
Ah,
I did travel back to this, I have been overseas to the States
yeah.
with a company called the Black Arm Band, but that would have been around, 2000, close to nearly 10 years ago.
Now that was your own group, correct? Back then?
It wasn't it wasn't my own group, but it was more like a collective
Ah,
of like indigenous, just different soul, like different indigenous artists that came from the country, and it was, like I said, more of a collective. Yeah,
yes, I see.
bigger mob.
We're going to come back around to some of that history in a little bit. I just wanted to say that as soon as I knew you were coming, I pulled out Crossover because I had it. And as you know, I reviewed it not long ago and was so impressed. And then in the process, I found out that, Under These Streets was released. And so I got to listen to that today. And I hope you're going to be playing some from both. And it's great music.
Thank you so much. I feel like we're feeling a bit flash these days with that extra album now. Like there's a really beautiful connection that I have with the putbacks, and it was actually really nice to kind of press record with them so soon after we released Crossover. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Some of the work you've been doing, I see that your two daughters had to travel with you to do that last album. Sounds like things were pretty busy for you.
Yeah, that they're so little, and they're a big part of, my whole everything that I'm about, when I write songs for my
Sure.
family, coming from like such a big musical family, I try everything I can to, include them, I guess. And them seeing mum sing, and they're a big part of my story too, of what I wanna pass down.
You have done a lot of family work. I mean, both sides, your mom and your dad, are musical people, and you come from these big families. Your mother's family, the Donovans, from the East, your father from the West, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you when I saw that, I mean, obviously it's two peoples, but it's also two coasts. And there's a lot of difference in the US between the East and the West. So my question was, are the differences in the music, the indigenous music, more related to the big distance, or simply because different peoples have very different styles?
That's an interesting question. I guess like culturally for me they're both different,
Yes.
even landscapes, like
Hmm.
I feel connected more with my mother because I grew up more with my mum on the
I
east
see.
coast of New South Wales, and I'm a city girl. I feel, like I was born in Sydney, Western Sydney.
Yes.
But I travelled, and homelands for me were the mid north coast on the east coast side, the New
Yes.
South Wales side. And my father's from Western Australia, so that's like a lot further distance, I guess, for me. But also, there's culturally, there's two different kind of tribes that my dad has his family like lineage from, like, yeah, Yamaji people from like Geraldton area, which is
Yes.
still coastal. And then Bibbulmun Rodandi mob, which is like my grandmother's clan.
Ah,
And they're different, like, yeah, Aboriginal families, and
sure.
clans. And it's me experiencing all of that and still staying connected to that. And that's why my daughters and my family now, my story that I want to tell, I want to be inclusive of all of that, when I tell stories and when I write songs for my family. Yeah.
When you there was a song on crossover about being on a train. The imagery
Mm,
was beautiful. Did you write that one?
yeah, I wrote
Oh,
all the
yeah,
lyrics.
you're right. Yeah.
I think it was beautiful when I did share it with the putbacks, and the drummer Rory, like he
Hmm.
made this like almost feeling like a train, coming
Yes,
from. They have these trains called the country links, and it's obviously different from like a metro,
sure,
train
sure.
network that but the other thing about them is they were old trains that when, like I said, I was in Sydney, so Nan would come down on the train, a country link, and it was
Yes.
a big thing for her to be standing there in the city, bang in the city of Central, and seeing her, and that's why we called that song Pink Skirt, because it was her attire, she was wearing them old flip flong thongs, and
Yeah.
she never had a proper flash like baggage, she just had like an old pillowcase,
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
that was that yarn now of just, describing her and how beautiful, yeah, it was to see her, in the city
I
visiting.
felt it. I felt it. You can. I hope you're gonna play that one for us.
Oh, definitely, yeah. There's a
Good.
lot of strong memories there.
I did a little bit of research today. And your mother's people, let me get this right. Gumbengnier. Did I get
Yeah,
it right?
Gumbangir. Yeah, Gumbangir. Yeah.
Gumbengnier. Okay, okay, I got it. uh how you know, I was thinking about uh the the movement of music around the world, and soul came into you, and this is a music that evolved out of Africa and morphed and then started to feed in the other direction, and outward. So I mean, we come from these roots, but sometimes things circle back, and there's stories like that coming out of Jamaica and the influences of reggae from soul and in the other direction. It's all very interesting,
Mm,
and I was just wondering, how did soul migrate to you?
mm. I feel like when people talk about traditional, even Aboriginal music here, there's so many different, you know, genres that has been influenced outside of Australia here. I feel like there's a lot of Aboriginal reggae styles here,
Yes.
in community, in remote and rural Aboriginal communities. Reggae is kind of like the thing, um, that's happening, and country music. Um, I speak a lot about my grandparents' mission life, like in
Mm-hmm.
the early 1900s when the government were removing and placing Aboriginal people outside their homelands. They would set up and be in reserves, and a lot of them reserves and mission were influenced a lot by churches, and the styles. And so that's where traditionally for me, I like to say my roots are country
Yes.
music, and even gospel. But it's funny, like you said, how all of them styles and all of that. My grandfather was a multi, instrumentalist, and
Yes.
his songs and his instrumental Western, style instruments were guitar and piano,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and almost like this gospel kind of, yeah. Uh, Before I met the putbacks, I was just straight up country,
Uh-huh.
like,
Okay, I see.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the putbacks, I think, although I knew a few soul singers growing up then,
Mm-hmm.
probably in my teens, inspired a lot by all the top 40 kind of, all of the R&B, the soul singers. I kind of didn't I was interested in it, but I didn't kind of, how would I say it? It
Integrated
was
into yourself.
yeah. I feel like I've kind of, since I've collaborated with the putbacks, I've
Yeah.
probably learned a lot about the earlier soul, and a lot of that's come from the putbacks and their collections and their inspirations,
Yeah, but you
and
know
it's just
something, when I read the reviews on you, and when I listen to you myself, you've really figured this out, and you've
Yeah,
brought your own spin to it. And you and the putbacks collectively bring a different edge. And I have noticed this um, from your nation, a different sound as would be expected in soul. Some of it I like a lot, and what I wrote the other day is if I had to translate it to what I hear in the US, the Bilal sound has some connections with what I hear out of the putbacks and what I hear with you and them, that edginess that isn't
yeah.
always in the soul here. It is in some artists, but not all. But I come to expect it more from your sound. It's very cool.
Wow. That's that make yeah, no, thank you. It's overwhelming hearing that,
Really?
and yeah, it makes it all more excited to come and share that when we go on this tour. I guess it makes me, I feel a bit nervous about this tour and what to expect.
Don't feel nervous.
And I'm getting emotional,
Yeah.
like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, but just hearing, what you said, yeah, it makes it all worthwhile. Like I think we have something really special in the
Mhm.
putbacks. It's been 8 years in this beautiful bubble,
Yeah.
of ours, and they're like my close friends, and so yeah, and all the stuff we've collaborated on, it's been a really safe place for me to express like how I feel, with my family story. There's a lot of trust there. So
Yes.
no, thank you for them comments and
I think
we
you're welcome. I think that you're going to bring your soul and you're going to bring your country with you as well. The
when
music
I
that
do
you.
gigs, yeah,
Mhm.
when I do gigs here and I explain, like you said, some of them distances between Yamaji and Bibbleman families right over back to the East Coast, like I'm always geographically trying to take someone there, like when we do the song about the river
Mhm.
and the creek, when I yarn and I talk to people, I'm like, I'm going to take you now up there. And I picture
Yes.
that place and I say, them old people that was sitting up on, like the headlands and they
Yeah.
pictured, the smoke of these tugboats coming through the river. And when I yarn about that and then I sing that song, I always try and I guess that's probably my only kind of agenda or my only thing when I want to sing is to take people there if they
You,
haven't been there to that country now.
one thing that I learned in traveling overseas, if I spent more than a week or two, I started to feel comfortable if I didn't understand what people were saying because I had to listen to the tones of their voices, and it made me appreciate the bigger world. Um, when I listen to some of your songs that I don't understand, I'm not sure I want to know the words. I want to feel the feel, and I
Yeah,
I I I I I felt it. So don't translate for me. You can do it after you sing the songs. But
it's
when
funny you
you're
say that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like in Australia, there's a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists here. We don't know their languages. It's hard to understand the different, languages from different country.
Sure.
And so, I've grown up on music where I've never had to, never had the translation or I've kind of understood a little bit of what, for instance, a band like Yoti Indi or Goromo Yunapingo, is from Northeast Arnhem NT. It's
Hmm.
a long way from us, but
Hmm.
I'm the same. For some reason, I don't want to know the
You don't
translation.
want to know.
I
Yeah.
want to be taken there, just
Yes.
from that music and from that voice. So I've been inspired like that myself, Michael. With artists in my own country that yeah, I don't know the language. but I can hear and feel the songs. Yeah.
Yes. Well, take us there when you come, please. I'm really looking
Will
forward
do.
to
We'll
it.
be bringing a bit of us definitely there.